Well, you know you're grilling in Canada whenever you gotta knock the snow off your grilling utensils. Let's let those warm up a little bit. Alright, welcome back to the garage. Now that I've got the rust just about all cleaned up on the body, I want to come over here and rebuild these door hinges. I've got a rebuild kit from OER. There's part number and stuff. And I'll set you up here and show you what's wrong with these things. Okay, whenever I pulled them off the car, I went ahead and labeled them so I know where they came from, so I can put them back where they're supposed to go. This one here, the pin walked out on it a bit. And it's a little loosey-goosey. This guy here's really loosey-goosey, this passenger side lower hinge. You can see that. It's like the bushing kind of came apart on it a little bit. The detent, it's not too bad, but since I've got a rebuild kit, I might go ahead and replace those. Yeah, there's that guy. That's the passenger side. Here's the driver's side upper. It's actually not too bad. Looks like the pin kind of walked out on it. It probably use a new pin and bushing on it. These stop pins here are still in pretty good shape, so I won't mess with those, I don't think. And here's the passenger side lower hinge, and it's not too bad, but again, might as well, since I've got the kit, might as well do it. Yeah, let's get cracking. Okay, here's the contents of that rebuild kit. You've got a couple springs, you've got 6 pins, you've got the detent rollers, you've got washers and bolts to go on those, you've got bushings, you've got the thick bushings and thin bushings, and instructions. And the instructions basically just say, you know, grind that off, slide that in, put that on there, and you're done. So let's get to doing that. We'll go ahead and I want to cut the hinge pins off of here and then drive those out on all of these and then see where we're at. Okay, I've got all the pins and detents taken out of these things. They're all apart. I keep them laid out here the way that they go back together so I don't get confused with anything. But now I can go ahead and knock the old bushings out of them, as well as clean the rust off of them, clean them up real good, and see what I've got. One thing I noticed with this passenger side lower door hinge is if you take a look at that hole, it's just slightly oblong. And if we look at the other side, still got the bushing in it. That bushing is wore on one side more than the other. So the holes in this one may be a bit oblong. I'll set it up here and show you exactly. Okay, here's that hinge set up here. I just set the bushing on top of it so that we could see, and you can see a little gap down in there. I'm not sure if that's bad enough that I've got to do something different, whether it's drill it out and put a bigger bushing in, or whether it'll be just fine. I'll do a little research, talk to some guys, and see what they think about it. But that's what I've got so far. Let's clean these up and get them ready to go. Here's a little different perspective on that. I pushed the bushing up from the bottom here, and you can see just a little gap along one side. I've got a feeler gauge here that's 15 thousandths, and it just barely fits. Sorry about that. It just barely fits down in there. So I think that'll be fine. I don't think that I need to do anything special here. I think just pushing the bushing in, it should be okay. Let me know what you think. Okay, I'm trying to get all the paint and rust cleaned off of these things. I set up my sandblast cabinet over there and was blasting on them and wire wheeling them and stuff like that, but it's just taking forever. And so I'm going to try using some of this aircraft stripper. I bought this a while ago and it's been sitting under the stairs for quite some time. And if you can see that, it's pretty gross. I don't know if that affects how it works or not, but I'm going to give it a try on these guys. Since I'm going to have these apart and floating around on all different places, I made little templates of them so that I can put them back together the way that they go. Driver's upper, passenger lower, and driver lower. So let's take this outside and paint it with some of that and see if it works. Yes, I do believe the time under the stairs has had a significantly negative effect on the usefulness of this product. It'll be going to the fire station for recycling. Let's do something different. All right, after a little quality time with my favorite wire-wheeled appliances, I've just about got them all cleaned up. They're looking pretty good. There are some areas that I can't quite get to with the wire wheel. Luckily, I have a cabinet for that, so I'm going to throw them in the blast cabinet, blast them up, get all the paint off of them, then they'll be ready for a coat of epoxy primer. Let's do that. Okay, I got these hinges all blasted up and cleaned up. They're looking real good. Got all the paint off of them, all the rust off them. I'm real happy with them. I'm just comparing the bushings to the holes to see if any of these holes need to be welded up or drilled out or fixed up or anything. I know I'd previously shown you this passenger side lower, and I don't know if you can see, but that bushing actually fits in there pretty good. I don't think that hole needs any welding or drilling. Thanks for your comments, everybody, on Instagram there. I know that I posed that question about whether that needed to be fixed up, but I think it's just fine. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to clean these up with some wax and grease remover, and then I'm going to paint them with primer, and let's get that going. Okay, I got them all degreased and cleaned up, hung up here, ready to be painted with epoxy primer. And what I'm gonna do is use an HVLP gun. This guy right here. I got this at Princess Auto, also known as Harbor Freight in the States, I guess you'd call it. Anyway, I'm gonna mix up some of this here epoxy primer, reduce it down just a little bit, and try and spray it. Let's give that a shot. All right, got them all painted up here. They're looking real good. Real happy with the way they turned out. Boy, spraying that epoxy primer is a lot easier than trying to paint it on with a brush. Should have been spray painting this whole time. But it looks pretty good. It's got a little bit of trash in it, but that's what I expect for, you know, painting in a dirty old garage. But I'm going to let these dry overnight, maybe for a day or two. I don't know. Next time I come back out here, I'll put the bushings and pins in them and get them all set up and ready to go. So that's where I'm at now. Okay, after a couple days of drying time, these hinges are ready to have the bushings and the pins and the detent rollers and the springs put back in them. The lower hinges have one hole that's bigger than the other hole, and it requires the larger bushing. You can see this guy here. It's got the ribs. It's ribbed for her pleasure. So the bushings only go in the door side of the hinges. The car side of the hinges stay rigid. The pin actually sets in those and doesn't move, and moves in these guys. So I've set up a block of wood here. I've got another little block of wood. I'm going to put these together and hopefully not mess up the epoxy primer too bad. Let's do that. Okay, I'm getting these things put together. It's going pretty well. They're nice and tight, real tight actually. End up beating the hell out of these things, trying to get the pin in, scuffed up the epoxy primer on everything here. A little pro tip as you go, make sure that you've got them set up the right way before you start pounding that pin in there, because it sucks to try and pull it out. I put one of these, this guy here, I had the body side for one and the top side for the other together, and it just luckily I just started to drive the pin, and then I looked at it and was like, oh man, you screwed it up. Another thing, get a little tool, this guy right here, to compress those springs. Makes putting them in tons easier than trying to do anything else. And then as well, put the spring in last, put the detent roller in just before that. That way you can swing this arm out of the way to pound on the pin and get that thing in there. But that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing. I'm just about to finish this up. Let's get her done. All right, so as I'm driving the pin in the last one here, it's not going so well. It had a hard time going in, and then I noticed that it was really tight, like super tight to try and move the hinge. And I'll set you up here and show you what I'm dealing with. Maybe. There we go. So I started playing around with this and I was looking at it, and it moves just a little bit. Let's see if I can show you this. The pin actually rotates. You see that? Sorry. Yeah, see that? The pin is... There's a little bit of wiggle room where the pin isn't moving. And then as well, whenever I turn it this way, if you notice, the bushing is rotating in the piece that it's supposed to be solid to. Same thing on the other side. I had a hard time driving this one in, and it seemed like the pin fit really tight in the bushings. And now the bushing isn't moving around the pin. Instead, it's holding onto the pin and it's moving in the hinge. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that got me curious, and I got to thinking, well, is that the same for the other ones? Let's take a quick look. Yeah, this one here, see that, if you can see that bushing with the ribs on it. See how it's not moving? It should be moving with this piece. So that kind of sucks. See if they're all like that. No, this one here is good. This one here, the bushing stays in the piece that it's supposed to stay in, and it rotates around the pin. And this one here is nice and like it moves really freely. But again, the bushing is attached to the piece it's supposed to be attached to here, and on this one here, it's attached to the pin and just sliding around in the hole. That can't be good. So this kind of sucks. I think that what I'll do is I'll use these for mock-up, but I don't think that they're going to last in the real world. So I may end up buying new ones at some point and replacing them. So I'm just going to end this video here. That's about as much as I'm going to get done. I'm going to go ahead and put the springs in these and be done with them and move on to bigger and better things. I'm going to call this a fail. 2 thumbs down. That sucks. I assume it's the bushing kit. The pins and the bushings aren't sized properly. That's what I'm going to blame it on. Maybe it's my fault. I don't know. But yeah, not as good as it could have been. But that's the way she goes sometimes. Sometimes you eat the bar, and sometimes the bear eats you. So anyway, thanks for watching.